So I got a lot of interesting feedback on the last video, and I'm really happy to see that it did so well, but at the same time, I was surprised at some of the comments, and not that there was like a ton of comments, but like some of the things that people were saying, which was mostly being really skeptical that this is a real channel, skeptical that I'm a real artist, and yeah, I just wanted to address that really quickly. I am a real artist. I'm a storyboard artist by trade. I typically get paid to do sketches for TV commercials and sometimes films. But I started off with illustration when I was in middle school and high school. I did illustration commissions online. When I went to college, I decided that I wanted to be a full-on fine artist, so I completely stopped doing illustration. On top of that, I had a pretty rough time. I started off by sharing just because I wanted to share, just because I loved seeing other people's artwork and I wanted to participate and be part of the online art community. But the more that I shared and the more, traction that I got, the more I got really stressed about it. Every post that I made, I would get really concerned if it didn't get as much traction, if it didn't get as many likes or whatnot, because I didn't want to disappoint the people who were following my work at the time. And this fear of disappointing my audience really just snowballed into this anxiety, I guess, to the point where I went on hiatuses and I never came back. So it was a mixture of things. It was one that I was posting these artworks and then got in my head too much about it, got too concerned that the work that I was doing sucked and that I wasn't doing a good job and I wasn't giving my audience what they expected, and that was a lot of pressure. I guess I was putting on myself, and then I also got into the fine art. So being that I wanted to be a pure, quote-unquote, pure fine artist, I put aside my digital drawing and I put aside all illustration work, and I just stopped all illustrating for years. And then it was only after I went through like 2 different career changes that I circled back, kind of by accident, which I detailed in my video about the 80% rule. That is a little bit of my New Year's resolution, is to try not to let myself get in my own way this year and to continue sharing my work, even if I'm not super happy with it. And another thing I wanted to address, which is probably something that people find to be a little sketchy and probably adds to people being skeptical about my art and this channel and the whole thing, is the lack of consistency between the styles that I'm using to draw across the channel. So a lot of the other drawings on the channel are like sketches, black and white sketches that I do for my storyboarding stuff. I was really like showing my process as a storyboard artist. I think what is kind of apparent probably throughout my channel is that you'll see different styles. So one thing about abandoning illustration when I was younger is that I never fully established my own personal style because I just didn't explore it long enough for me to get to that point. So I did learn many different techniques. I really enjoyed looking at other people's art, and there were artists that I really admired, and I loved to experiment with the techniques that they were using and try to figure out like, oh, how did they draw that? How did they make that material look like that? So I really spent a lot of time experimenting and challenging myself to try new things. But I never really got around to a point where I'd established what my personal style as an artist looked like. It was more just like, oh, I'm going to try this. Oh, I'm going to try that, which has really helped me as a storyboard artist, because while other artists might have one go-to style and they're locked into that, I'm able to draw in many, many different styles. So my portfolio is really diverse. So I'm able to be brought onto projects with cartoon style, anime style, realistic style, semi-realism, exaggerated expressions or dramatic shading, painterly shading, all kinds of stuff. Surprisingly, even though it's best practice to have a specific style as an artist, for me, it's only been a benefit. It's allowed me to be really flexible and fluid and not attached to drawing in any particular way. So that's been really great for my career as a storyboard artist. It's gotten me a lot of jobs. But if I was to be an illustrator full on, I don't know that being an illustrator that has no style would work very well. But I just wanted to bring that up because as more people come in who might be skeptical about the work that I'm sharing, that's preemptively an explanation as to why you might see a lot of variation across the board. I wanted to touch on the 80% rule one more time because throughout these Sam Does Art's Pause Challenge illustrations that I've been doing, I think I've discovered a couple of exceptions. I think the 80% rule, which is this idea that you put 80% of your time and effort into a project so that you can preserve the last 20% for life stuff, for mental health stuff and physical wellness stuff, and just improve your life by doing less. Less is more. So you put in 80% instead of 100%. That's the idea anyway. I think a couple of exceptions to that, at least in terms of drawing, you should use 100% if you really have a goal where you're really trying to learn something, because I think it's really hard to learn a new thing and commit it to memory if you're not fully applying yourself. Because there's different reasons why we draw. We could draw because we need to make a post. We could draw because we're finishing an assignment. We could draw for work. We're not always drawing in order to learn things. But if you're doing a study, if you are really trying to figure something out and challenging yourself as an artist in ways you haven't done before, then that's when you should apply 100% effort. And the idea behind the 80% rule is that you're putting in enough effort onto a project while not taking away from other important aspects of your life. When you're bettering yourself, you are bettering all aspects of your life. So I think that's where the 100% is justified. I just feel that in these past illustrations, as I've stumbled on a couple of things that were new for me, like even though I work as an artist and have been doing this for a long time, there's always something new to discover. So, for example, the expression of this character was a little tricky. And so because I was rendering it more deeply than I typically render for storyboard art, I was taking a deeper look at how the anatomy of the mouth actually works, how the teeth and the jawline work, the perspective involved with that, the angle of the teeth from below and the jawline coming down, and how the anatomy of the inner cheeks presses against the teeth and creates certain shadows. That became a new discovery for me. Like, I've drawn the corners of the lips so many times. It's usually what I start with when I'm drawing the mouth, but especially with the mouth open like that, it was just a good learning experience for me. So that was a time in the drawing when I really had to sit and concentrate and look deeply and figure some stuff out. Another time is when you enjoy it. If you are really having a good time and enjoying what you're doing, then yeah, give 100%. I think it's hard sometimes to remove all distractions and be fully focused on one task. To see drawing as a mindfulness activity can feel really rewarding and motivating to be able to do that at least once in a while. Yeah, I think it's just kind of a rare thing to just have a section of time where you're fully absorbed and enjoying and having fun doing something. I mostly do drawing for work. Honestly, I don't do a ton of personal drawing, so these personal drawings that I've been doing for this channel have been kind of a breath of fresh air. And for a long time, I lost touch with the enjoyment of drawing because of just doing it as a job. Like, I clock in, I draw. I imagine it like as if the client is renting my hands. That sounds kind of weird, but they're like renting my hands and my artistic brain, my skills for the day or for the hours or whatever the contract is agreed to draw the things that they don't have the skills to draw. And then I clock out. And sometimes I work on something that's fulfilling, that I'm drawing some cool stuff, but I think it's still totally different when you're working on a personal piece of art and fully absorbed and having fun and enjoying that. It's a different mood, it's a different feeling. So I've been able to get back in touch with that through this YouTube channel just a little bit, when I really allow myself to fully enjoy the process and reconnect with like why I started drawing in the first place, which was to have fun, was to challenge myself, and was to learn new things and enjoy learning new things. The first drawing that I ever made was a drawing of Sonic the Hedgehog, of all things, because my brother had drawn Sonic the Hedgehog, and he showed it to me, and I thought it was so cool, and I wanted to know how to do it as well. And so little me went and studied Sonic the Hedgehog and drew my own version, and I showed it to my brother, and I remember his reaction was really strange. He just kind of looked at it, and I thought I was gonna get a reaction like, wow, good job. Me being like a little kid. I must have been, I don't know, 3, 4, some little child. And he was a teenager. I think he was going to college at the time. Anyway, so he looked at this drawing and he just didn't react and just kind of walked away. And then I never saw him drawing anything ever again. But yeah, the very first drawing that I remember doing, at least an illustration, was a fan art of Sonic the Hedgehog and was inspired by me wanting to figure out how to draw something that my brother did. So it was like the competitive element mixed in with just my desire to learn. I think that if you don't enjoy learning, then that makes it really hard to progress as an artist in any medium, really. And I think in a way, because I know that I'm still learning, I can feel that I'm learning something new. And while that motivates me in the moment on a personal level to continue drawing and to continue learning, it kind of takes away my confidence. That makes it so much harder to share the pictures because I know they're not like perfect, quote unquote. And when I know they're not the best that I could potentially do, it's like, why bother sharing? Like this illustration, there's so much that I don't like about it, being that it was a pause challenge. All I had in terms of a story to go off of was the character design. So I was working this entire time on this drawing, trying to figure out what kind of a story this person's character design was telling me. Like from the scars and scratches on their skin to the fact that they're like a cat person, and then wearing this tight kind of dark attire reminded me of like a spy or a heist film or something. So I went through many iterations of the pose before kind of stumbling on this idea that they were looking at something in their hand. I drew the hand as kind of like this claw shape. Early on in the rough sketch, I was trying different things with the hand and finger positions, landed on a claw shape originally. I was like thinking like she was going like rawr. But then as I was drawing the face and adding more detail to the face, I realized, oh, she could have something that she's holding that she's looking up since her head is tilted up that way. So once I put something in her finger, then other ideas came to me like, oh, okay, so she's holding up this thing that's shiny. What if she just robbed a bank or something like that? And now she's sitting there and she has her bag of spoils and she's looking at all the treasures and stuff. And then that would kind of help to explain the scars and stuff that maybe this person had a rough life. Something like that. I started to piece together more of a story. And then I took some artistic liberties with the wardrobe. Being that this person has scars all over them, it just made sense that the wardrobe would also be scratched up. I hope that's okay for the challenge. I don't know if it is. I assume so. I mean, you have to like make some adjustments to tell a story, I feel like. And then as the drawing went on, I added more details to what was in the bag and made sure that it came off as jewelry. That's what I was going for anyway, jewelry and money. And then after I put that in there, then I realized, okay, but her character needs to tie into this bag of gold more. So then that's when I decided to put jewelry on her ears and then put gold clips throughout her hair. Maybe this person is like a cat burglar with a history of stealing gold, shiny things. So at the end of the day, I think that the drawing worked out. I was able to finish it. Wasn't super happy about it, just like the last time I wasn't like super happy with the previous picture that I shared. But I had to pat myself on the back for actually finishing the picture and meeting the challenge. And I hope that by sharing my journey can help other artists. Part of my New Year's resolution towards overcoming perfectionism is about sharing work that I'm not super happy with or super proud of necessarily, because I could certainly go the route of studying in private like I always have been and waiting until I feel like my skills are at the right level that I hold myself to before I share anything at all. But honestly, that hasn't worked out for me in the past. If that was a good strategy for me, then I never would have gone on hiatus in the first place when I was younger. So I'm thinking that this channel can help hold me accountable to continuing my personal creative journey. So I hope you got something out of this video. I'm trying new approaches to narration. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the topics that I touched upon in this video. Unlike some of my other videos, I didn't go too much into the techniques or the how-to of how I approached this drawing. But if there's anything throughout this drawing that you want me to expand upon in a specific video going over the techniques that I used, and any other picture that's on my channel for that matter. I don't know how to end this video, but all you need to know is I am a real artist. I am the original artist that's making these artworks. You won't find them elsewhere online, nor will you find the JPEGs like posted on any online portfolio. If you're interested in seeing more time lapses like this, how-to videos where I walk you through my techniques and processes for drawing and painting digitally, both on the iPad, and I think I want to do some Photoshop and maybe Premiere stuff too. If you're an artist who is interested in learning more about full-time freelance creative work and how I navigate working for clients and how I was able to build up my career without an online presence, then consider sticking around and subscribing because I have a lot of videos on the horizon. Have a good day and see you in the next one.